ancient evil, billions of years old, wages war on the universe. Entire star systems are vanishing without a trace, leaving devastation in their wake. Nexus, the intergalactic guardian of lost souls, must stop the unnameable terror and its expanding scourge of destruction. The totality of everything in existence will collapse upon itself if he fails. With the fate of the cosmos in the balance, Nexus must confront his most dangerous adversary yet. Can he save creation from total and certain destruction, or will darkness reign supreme? Find out in Nexus Scourge, the all-new epic sci-fi adventure from Eisner-winning co-creator Mike Baron, exploding with Kelsey Shannon's dynamic artwork. Available now at baroncomics.com.
Welcome to another episode. On this one, we have another person from Colorado. Contrary to popular belief, their voice is not more high-pitched because of the higher elevation, but
in fact, quite the opposite.
I've known Kevin for many years. He's a fine artist. He's a veteran. He's worked on comic books, particularly with Ron Fortier, who's another Fort Collins resident, and Ron has written The Green Hornet and Terminator in the past, but now he mostly does his own stuff. Kevin is a fine artist with a unique style who works primarily in portraiture. He's been having some success lately with gallery placements, and that's where I think most of his work belongs. It's either in a gallery or on your wall. You can see samples of his work behind him. That he's got a very rich palette, and he does things with faces that I have not seen in other artists do. So, Kevin, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into painting and why you concentrate on portraiture?
Sure. Well, my journey started years ago when I was a kid. Most kids start out drawing on their parents' walls or in old photo albums, what I used to do. I used to mess up those old photo albums a lot. But I had family members that were artists, and as a young kid, getting to see my aunts and cousins paint and draw, I got that itch. And so I got into comic books first. Most kids I know start out with anime and stuff like that. I started out with comic books. John Byrne was my favorite comic book artist back in the day, especially with his run on the X-Men, the stories of the Hellfire Club and the stories of Magneto and stuff like that intrigued my mind. And so started tracing comics and stuff like that. But the end goal was, to be an artist, no matter what it was. Education was the first thing I sought out. Started college going for commercial art, when they called it commercial art, the age before computers. But I got hungry. I wanted to do more. I said, I want to go to a bigger college. My goal was to go to Chicago Institute of Art, and didn't have the money to do that. So I said, you know what? I'm going to join the Army, get the GI Bill, and go to art school. So joined the Army, did 21 years because I raised a family. And then after that, I went to college for animation, Full Sail University. During my time in the Army, I was hungry to learn art, but there was no schools I could go to while I was in the Army. Luckily, when I retired and while I was going to school for animation, I found out that Thomas Blackshear, I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a famous illustrator. He lives here in Colorado Springs. So a lot of my training came through him. He's known throughout the illustration world. He worked for Lucasfilm. He worked on those famous Star Trek plates where you see Spock holding up his hand like that. Thomas did all those plates and stuff like that. So I started doing workshops with him for quite a few years, probably like 10 years before I started really getting good. And I always tell artists, you got to have patience, you know what I mean, to get to where you want to go. And so basically that's how my journey began.
When did you start doing portraits?
Well, portraits actually started back in high school, doing just pencils. I did no color whatsoever, and I started selling portraits of teachers during high school for like $5 a picture just to see if they were selling. They actually sold. So I was like, okay, maybe I can do some art.
Yeah.
How did you pick up your unique palette?
Well, the funny story is, once again, going through Thomas's class, he realized that I had issues using color at first. And so my color palette was kind of strained. I was getting muddy colors and stuff like that. So he pulled me aside and said, hey, you need to work with your colors. And so the way I broke through that, I said, don't let me try to get fancy with colors. Let me just start out with the basic colors, and then go from there. And so I learned to manipulate from that. And that's why my palette is so rich, because I don't try to go too deep and try to mix a whole lot of colors.
Have you done much life drawing?
I did a little bit of life drawing. Actually, when I was in the Army, I took one class before 9/11. It was a drawing class, life drawing. And especially on Fridays, it got so crazy that the professor started leaving class early and told me to take over and teach with him.
Was this in the United States?
Yes, Austin P University outside of Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
The models who posed for you, were they in the service or were they civilians?
There was some because this was actually at the university. The military had a program where if you re-enlist, you can go to college for 6 months and you don't have to go to work. I didn't have to do any military work. So I took a semester of life drawing at Austin P University, and we have live models that would come in and pose in the class.
Did you work with a pencil or a pen?
Well, back then we was using newsprint paper, and then we were using like charcoal, and then we went into pencils as well. So it was a unique class. You have the model come in and pose, and we just started drawing.
I've seen some comic book work you've done. How did you get into that?
Well, going back to my earlier when I used to, think about John Byrne's work and Jim Lee's work and those guys at Image Comics, those guys were a big influence. So in the 90s, every time I got stationed somewhere, I would find a comic book shop and I would buy those books and I would just start to emulate those books, especially when the Wildcats came out, when Jim Lee worked on those. I would practice and actually send in samples one time when I was in the Army. Didn't hear anything because I know my stuff wasn't all that great, but that's when I started working on that. And then when you mentioned Ron, so luckily, because of Facebook, when Facebook first came out, everybody started to promote on Facebook. So I was doing digital painting at the time, and Ron came out with a series about Sinbad. And so I actually did a digital cover for Ron for the Sinbad series. And then when the Rocky Mountain Con started, I showed up to Rocky Mountain Con with a portfolio, and Ron was there, and we met in person for the first time ever. And so he said he didn't know that I did illustration work, and he asked to see my portfolio. And he knew I was in the Army, and he said, hey, I got a story I wrote 20 years ago, which is probably like 25 years ago now, about a soldier special forces, almost something like Rambo or whatever. So he said, hey, you can draw, you got the military experience. I think this would be the perfect book for you.
Are you working digitally now?
Actually, because I'm painting, I'm working more traditionally. But now, what I'm doing now, I'm getting the itch to do comic work again. So I jumped back into Clip Studio, where I'm actually doing some digital stuff as well.
Are you working with oils?
Yes, oils. I started out with acrylics, and now I'm working with oil paints. Yeah.
Do you prefer oils?
Yes, especially when I go with bigger paintings because it's easier to blend the paint. Even though it takes longer to dry, there's mediums you can mix with it to make it dry faster, so that way I can paint in layers.
You're having some success placing your work in galleries. How's that going?
Oh, it's going great. My first gallery to represent me is called a gallery called Black Art America out of Atlanta, in Atlanta, Georgia. And then so now I ended up joining a co-op gallery here in Colorado Springs. It was like 20 of us artists together, and I actually had a two-man show at a new gallery called Auric Gallery. It was real successful. And so I had two ladies from there that saw my show, and they invited me to have an exhibit with the Colorado College Orchestra and Chorus. So I just had a big event with them. And so now I'm also showing in Trinidad, Colorado as well. And I just had a show that was in Boulder, Colorado also.
Oh, congratulations.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Have people approached you about doing private commissions, portraits of their loved ones or themselves?
All the time.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
I would love to do that, but my work is getting so busy in the galleries and stuff like that. I don't really have time. I tell them just be patient. If they really want it, just give me to the end of next year, maybe get them on my list, and maybe I can fit them in.
You know, Kevin, you have such a body of work out now. Have you thought about putting out a book of your work, of portraits?
Yeah, I actually started on a book a few months back. I put it on hold because, like I said, I got so busy doing other stuff that I didn't have the opportunity to finish it. So I think I'm gonna break it down because I got original sketches. I got some work showing my process. So I want to add that to the book, and I also want to show the finished images in that as well.
Are you going to publish it yourself?
And that's the goal. I think a lot of people are doing independent things these days, so I'm thinking about just self-publishing. Unless somebody comes on board and say, "Hey, we like what you're doing. Let's see if we can assist or work out with you on this one." Yeah.
Well, that could happen if they know about you.
Right.
Do you have an agent?
No, like I said, the gallery in Atlanta, I signed exclusive with them a couple years back, and that ended last year. And so that's the reason why I got into other galleries now, because that contract ended. But I'm still with them. They still show my work, but there's no contract involved.
A lot of people get agents and get publishing gigs and stuff like that from just being seen, from the traffic they get from doing a crowdfunding thing. So yeah, even if you were self-publishing, it's like, yeah, that might lead to a bigger publishing thing or a bigger distribution thing. Sometimes you can, if you get the right deal, you just need to be able to have the distribution to get it out there.
Yeah, I've had some luck with, like you said, people reaching out to me just because of what I've been doing. So I do have couple license things going on right now.
Right.
Got a couple of covers coming out with some publishers, just licensed to work from me directly. So I think an agent will definitely be a good idea. So.
Is your book going to offer tutorial on how to do portraits as well? It's going to describe your process, right?
Yeah, that's something I thought about, because I got some paintings where I did the initial drawing, then I did the underpainting, then I also showed the final painting itself, and I can break those steps down into the book as well. Talking about that. So,
do you have you done portraits from life for specific people, and they say, "I want you to paint me," and they come in and sit?
No, I haven't had the opportunity to do that one yet. Only thing I had done so far, I got commissioned by the 21C Library to do a portrait of a famous singer who sung with Duke Ellington. And
who is it?
Peggy Shivers.
Yeah, I met Duke Ellington.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. It was one of the high points of my life.
Okay. Peggy Shivers and her husband were philanthropists, and they donate a lot of money to the libraries here in Colorado Springs. And so her husband was an artist himself, and he actually did, there's a sculpture at the Air Force Academy that he was commissioned to do back in the day. So that statue was there at the Air Force Academy. And so they have a space where he and his wife on the walls in the galleries or at the library. And so they didn't have anything of her, so they commissioned me to actually do a portrait of her, and so it's in their permanent collection.
Is there a jazz scene in Colorado Springs?
They have an old club like the Cottonwood Club from back in the day.
Really?
I guess they used to be open back in the day, so I think they used to do that here. I know the Colorado College and some other stuff like that is going on doing performances. Was that the Harmonics or something? The Harmonic or here in Colorado? So yeah.
Are you going to be at the convention in August in Colorado Springs?
I usually go. I usually don't set up for that. I usually have a lot of friends that I go just see and talk to, and just do my rounds, and like I always do,
Well, good. I hope to see you there. I'll be there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you were there last time I was there. Yeah, we actually talked. So it's always great seeing you at cons.
I look forward to introducing you to Vail my Auric, who is also concentrating mostly on paintings these days, and he does some portraiture as well. I know you guys would hit it off.
Okay.
So you're talking about doing comic.
Right.
You're getting the itch for that. And have you tried mixing the two as far as like doing the digital and doing any painting too, or you'd like to keep them separate?
No, I actually, my goal in the comics was if I could actually work in comics professionally, whatever that is these days. I would love to do a lot of covers. I look at people like Alec Ross, who does his covers are, fantastic. My mentor, Thomas Blackshear, he was actually approached to do comics, do covers for what's the Dennis Cowan's company that was out, Milestone.
Milestone, yep.
So I know he almost had the opportunity to do covers for Milestone and stuff like that, and so Those are things I would like to do. Covers for comics if I could. The interior work is fun and it's challenging, and but the covers are thing I think is something I will have more fun with. And I've had friends that challenge me to say, "Hey, won't you do full comics like you do your paintings?" I said that'll take forever.
Yeah, and it would be expensive. Usually, you make a lot better money doing the covers, so it's more worth your time.
And I'm not sure, how true it is. I know some guys say, you have to get known for interiors first before they decide to move you on to a cover. But I've seen some artists that I've never seen do interiors do covers, so I don't know how true that
You're
is.
right. You're right, especially these days. That's very true.
The cover is the most important feature in selling a book.
Right. The good thing about it is that a lot of independent guys are out there now. I have been approached by some independent guys about doing covers and stuff like that. So I've done a couple of things for a couple of novelists, but as far as the comic book side, I haven't done that yet. But novels I've done. So
because Mike and I are both writers, so we really want you. We want people to read the stories, but I mean, it's like over half the people nowadays are just collecting for the covers. But they treat it, and that's what I was trying to explain to a couple of people. It's like, but they treat it like fine art. I mean, like they're into these cover artists, they're into these characters, these poses and stuff. And yes, I want them to read the story, but it's almost like it's its own art form in a way. And there's so many people that do that, and they want to put it up on their walls, just like fine art.
And that's one thing that drew me to comics. First of all, was the art. Just seeing the covers, and then I will open, even before I bought the comic book, I would just flip the pages to see what artists drew the book. And sometimes I would get disappointed because I would see that they switch artists halfway between the book.
Yeah.
But I just did the story, like I said, the story of the Hellfire Club from the X-Men. Yeah. I couldn't get away from that story whatsoever. That story just stuck to me. There was another story with Magneto. I guess when he was the evil, the Brotherhood of Evil stories.
Yeah.
And I love those stories as well. So I would just keep my face glued to reading those books as well as looking at the art.
Who wrote those?
Was it Chris Claremont? Was he the writer for those?
Yeah, probably.
It was pretty good too, because those were more complex characters and everything too.
They got pretty deep.
Yeah.
I understand they're bringing Chris back to save the sinking ship.
Maybe.
Well, good luck. I mean, we're all aware that corporate comics are circling the drain.
Yeah.
And it's primarily because they forgot their primary mission, which was to entertain. That's why we buy a comic. We want to lose ourselves in the story. And we haven't been able to lose ourselves in the story for a while, at least not on most books. And we've all bought comics for the art. I mean, that's what drew us to comics in the first place. The first time somebody showed me Steranko's work, my head exploded. I could not believe the freshness and excitement of the style he introduced. And very few people have been able to do anything like that. Paul Galassi is one of them. And when he took over Master of Kung Fu, of course, I picked up every issue.
Yeah, George Perez was another favorite of mine as well. I got that same feeling when I looked at John Byrne's work, when I looked at his work, the character design, the action, the movement of the characters, the storytelling. And then, when you worked on the Teen Titans, that's another story, that I constantly looked at and read a lot, outside of being an artist. Those are the books I actually read.
Yeah.
Do you carry a sketch pad?
Every so often now, and I carry, just like everybody else, my iPad. But I still draw traditionally too. Like I said, I got my drawing desk. You can't see it, but it's over here to my left. And I pull out some typing paper and I sharpen my pencils and I just start drawing that way as well. The iPad is good, but sometimes I don't like the way the pen slides across the screen. So I want to get that texture that you get with pencils and that feeling that you get when drawing from pencils as well.
Well, I've seen your inked work in black and white. You inked that by hand, didn't you?
Yeah, a lot of it I ink by hand too, yes.
Did you use a brush or a pen?
I kind of mix it up sometimes. I want to use the brush more, but I was just thinking of the idea from this that I wanted to do. I'm using washes and stuff like that. The pen, sometimes you can't get as creative as you can with a brush, You can get different line values and line work, and you can experiment more with a brush. So I'm definitely wanting to incorporate the brush more in my ink. Yeah.
I think that brushwork helps the art come alive more.
Yes.
I mean, there are guys who work in pen and can do it.
Right.
It's a lot more labor intensive. Whereas with the brush, you vary the pressure there, and so the line pulses beneath the tip, and that's one of the things that makes comics stand out in the hands of good artists.
I do a lot of studying, like your friend Steve Rude. I bought a couple of his books this past year, and I go deep into his stuff and just see his process, and I watch some of his videos as well, seeing the different mediums that he uses, the gouache and the acrylics and the brushes and the color pencils. So working mixed media is fun as well.
I spoke to the dude yesterday. He's very excited about his new work and my new work, and I'm excited about my new work and his new work.
Yeah, now we just need Kevin to draw to paint a painting of Nexus, right?
That'd be great.
There you go.
I see that Iron Man in the background.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my kids know I love comics, so every Christmas I get something comics. I got 6 or 7 other pictures to my left you can't see. They buy them and I just stack them up because they know what I like. So for the holidays, they know what to give me. So
is that oversized? It looks pretty big.
Yeah, it's oversized. It's like poster, a little bit big poster size, and it's actually like on canvas, sitting on my stand. So,
well, I was just going to ask if you do comic thing, like, do you have an idea in mind or a writer that you're working with, or?
Yeah, my brother's actually a writer, and he writes more like in a movie script style. So last year I told him, understand you want to submit scripts to movies and stuff like that. But I said one way to get noticed by the movie industry, if you do a graphic novel, so take one of your scripts and convert it to comic book style, and then we can work on a project for you, and then we can get that out there, and then people see it, and you can pitch that because if you have a visual, you can pitch it, then the movie companies, whoever you show it to, know exactly where you're trying to go. So we're working on that with him right now, trying to make that happen. I'm doing most of the layouts and stuff. He doesn't have much experience on the comic book side, so I had to show him examples of script writing for comics versus movie, and then also had to show him how I would do layouts and stuff like that. So I'm probably going to do a lot of the legwork for him and then kind of push it off to him a little bit.
Some movie stars are now doing their own graphic novels.
Yeah.
I just got this immense issue of The Exiled, which is Wesley Snipes' new book, and it came along with this this smaller version. I haven't even opened it up yet, but I got to show you the book because the publishing format is unique as far as I know. I've never seen anything like this. So
something like that size. Yeah. So pretty cool.
Yeah, they have a few different things that they're doing with that.
Wow. Yeah, look at that. Yeah. Hey, Mike, I got a little. You said that was Wesley Snipes, right?
But my friend Adam Lawson, who's a gaming guy, wrote this book for him. And Adam and I have been friends online for years. He's on Twitter if you're interested. And he's also a gaming expert. So we're going to be talking to Adam about turning Florida Man into a board game.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, I got approached recently by a card game company about helping them out with some of their characters. His name is, because I have a cousin who played college ball at Tennessee, and he actually played the same year with Peyton Manning when Peyton Manning was at Tennessee.
Wow.
My cousin was on the line protecting him. But anyway, my cousin always wanted to be an actor, right? And so he would always go do these tryouts and stuff to be in movies. And he actually, one of the Wesley Snipes' last films, I don't think it was released in the theaters, it was straight to DVD. Right. My cousin was in the movie, and he was one of the big bodyguards for Wesley Snipes' character in the film.
What was the movie?
Oh man, it's so old. This is the last one.
Snipes is still acting, and he's moved away.
He's back now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's doing character actors. He was in something called True Story.
Yes.
Did you see that? I think it starred Kevin Hart.
Yeah, about the brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. I did see that. That was real good. Oh, so I think the name of the movie that my cousin, I think it was called, was it Hard Luck or something like that?
It is Hard Luck.
Yeah, my cousin was in that movie. Yep, he was the big guy, big football player dude in the Wesley Snipes bodyguard in the movie.
Cool.
Nice.
Then, yeah.
A former criminal goes on the run with a stripper after a drug deal goes bad.
That's funny.
Oh, it's directed by Mario Van Peebles.
Yeah, yep.
Wow,
Yep. My cousin was in that movie, Wesley Snipes. There's a scene where they're sitting at a table, and my cousin, he even had some words in that film in the parking lot scene or whatever. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So you're saying your cousin got a talking role?
Yeah, just a few words, like something happened in the parking lot, confrontation. He had to do his part, but yeah, he played college football.
That's a huge jump. When they give you a few lines, that's a huge jump. I think you get more pay then.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool for him.
So, is there anything you haven't gotten into that you would, as far as like all the different art, like we're saying, because you said comics, you got cards, you got. Have you done any games, any stuff for any games or anything?
No, not games, but I went to school, like I said, for computer animation. So I know how to do a little bit of 3D modeling and stuff like that. So what I'm doing now, I'm doing digital sculpting. And so I want to put out my own characters based on some of my paintings. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you one right now. Okay. So this is a sculpture that I did based on one of my paintings.
Oh,
nice.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been playing around with that. This is 3D printed.
Where did you get that printed?
I printed myself. I bought me a 3D printer.
You did?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Mike has some orders he'd like to place with you.
Here's another one. Yeah, here's another one I did recently too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
that's really good. That looks like a very sophisticated printer.
Yeah, based off of the printers are getting better. When they first came out, you see these big, thick lines that they print. Now they're getting cleaner prints.
Yeah.
And you can do a little bit more with them now. So that's something else I've been working on. Like I said, Mike, I can't be still. I got to keep moving to the next thing. I think being in the Army, because I felt like I was restricted and I couldn't do what I wanted to do. So when I retired from the Army, I went just straight head first and just kept on going nonstop. Everybody asked me what's my motivation. My motivation is, well, if you deploy 4 times while you're in the military, you think about life a little bit. You think about your goals. And so when you get back and get the opportunities, you try to, at least I don't try to waste any time that I have.
Were you stationed overseas?
Yeah, I was stationed in Germany. I was stationed in Korea, and I did 4 deployments, 3 to Iraq and 1 to Afghanistan. Yeah.
So are you doing any of the 3D models for your for reference, for drawing?
But I have used 3D models inside the computer.
Right.
And I will pose those models to get the lighting and the pose. Because sometimes, it's hard to see what that right pose you want. So I will actually manipulate those characters inside the computer to get that pose that I want for my drawings.
Yeah. Well, I asked because I know some of my friends who are comic artists, but they come from more of a painting frame of mind and everything. Like they love using like 3D models like that to be able to kind of pose it and light it the way that they want, and then be able to illustrate it.
Mike.
Oh wow, that's Mike.
A guy 3D printed this.
Nice.
It's pretty good though.
Pretty cool. No, I've seen where some comic artists, they would use SketchUp, or what's the 3D modeling? The SketchUp or something, and it will build like the city scenes and stuff like that.
Yep.
And rotate those to actually get their perspective and stuff like that drawn out. I've seen what artist, I can't remember his name, but I saw where he actually built a whole city. So for the comic book goes, whatever part of the scene, wherever it is at in the city, he will pull up part of the city and use that for the scene in the background. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah.
That is cool.
I even found out that if you go to John Byrne's website and you do some deep diving, you even find out he does it. Back in the day, he done some 3D stuff as well that I didn't know. Because, when you're coming up as an artist, you're trying to figure out how did he do that or how did he make this happen. So then you start finding out these little secrets that you can't find out in school. You know what I mean? So, he used 3D. Man, I thought he did everything by hand. He did it by hand, but he used it to get perspective and the design work and stuff like that. Yeah.
Have you thought about painting the 3D sculptors?
Yeah, I'm debating it right now, because like I said, the qualities they're coming out now, and there's different types of materials that you use. Like the material I use for these, it look like marble a little bit, and I kind of like that myself.
Right.
But I have been people who ask me, do I want to paint them? And I do want to paint some. I just don't. I'm just trying to figure that part out right now. What?
Yeah, I would
some
love
of
to
the-
see that. I imagine that there are technical challenges because that plastic is not canvas, and it'd be harder for it to hold the paint.
Right.
Yeah.
I've seen where some guys, they would sand them down a little bit, just enough
Yep.
so it can hold texture, and then you can go in and do stuff like that. And I'm also in the mindset of trying to figure out how, if I take that 3D print, how can I convert that 3D print to actually a bronze sculpture if I wanted to do that in the future?
Nice.
The place to find that is in Loveland, which is.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, I was at a show here in Loveland last week, and Jeff Herndon was there. Yeah, you know Jeff?
Yeah, I spoke to him this weekend, as a matter of fact, about that. So yeah.
Yeah, you saw the sculptures on his table, didn't you?
Yes. The George Washington and the Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was still in clay, but I actually picked up the George Washington. Even though it was small, it was real heavy.
Yeah,
That's what I want for the 3D, because 3D prints are light. And so if you sell the 3D prints as is, it's going to be kind of light. So I'm trying to figure out ways to give it weight. And I've seen where people print the different colors and, the different toys and stuff like that. But my goal is to try to do something on the fine art side of it.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder if Jeff is going to reproduce those and sell them. He must use a mold, obviously, to make that.
Well, he actually works at a foundry. So, he has the opportunity to learn that whole process and talk to the guys who actually does it at his job. So he does that too. I've seen a lot of guys get into the collectible market as well.
Yeah.
As far as, trying to, make a living from the work. If it's not the fine art, if it's not the toys, well, they've tried to figure out a way to get into the collective industry. And I've seen that going real well right now. So, yeah. We're actually having a big show in Loveland next weekend. It's a big 3D print show at the same location where we had the Comic-Con this past weekend.
Are you coming up?
I wanted to, but my wife is going out of town this week too, so I don't know. But it's a big show, 3D print show.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's this coming weekend. At the same time, we was with that.
You can just tell her it's for work, right?
Yeah, I can do that.
Do me a favor and send me the news about that. I'd like to.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
But is that getting to be a bigger thing where they're doing 3D conventions all over the country now?
I think they're more or less, they call them not really conventions, but they call them what's the word? Maker space type things.
Yeah.
Going on. So I think they're doing a lot of maker space type shows, and they include that as a part of that.
That would be interesting if you haven't already to have some 3D things that you made as part of your exhibition or something sometime at some.
Yeah, that's what I'm planning. I know some people have asked me, am I selling them yet, and this and that, but I just want to make sure that I get them to the level that I want them first,
right?
Before I start doing that, because like I said, I don't know how people will accept it as being fine art or just maybe just something for display. I thought about my next Comic-Con that I do, go ahead and print off some of the character designs to just have them on display for those type of shows as well. So
I think it would be good, especially if you're really saying, I made this. This wasn't just somebody else that did it. Like if you're saying, hey, I did this, I had to do the sculpturing in there, especially, and it would always, and obviously it would be cool because a lot of people enjoyed the process. It'd be cool if you had, I don't know, some kind of photos or some kind of things showing your process. So you're actually proving to them, I'm the one who did this. And
you could have come to the Denver Pop Expo.
I was just looking at the guest list a couple of days ago. The first year they changed it to the Fan Expo. One of my favorite artists was there, but I was like, it's kind of too late to go. Jim Lee was there, and I always wanted to meet Jim Lee my whole life. When Image kicked off. And I didn't even know he was going to be there. And I was talking to one of my friends. He said, yeah, I went to the Fan Expo. I said, oh, yeah, how was it? He said, Jim Lee was there. I said, what? I was like, man, I wanted to cry. Because I've been wanting to meet him since I was in my 20s. You know what I mean? But it never happened, of course. But I might go. There's a couple other artists I just recently saw that's going to be there. Stephen Platt's supposed to be there. Jay Lee's supposed to be there.
Well, apparently the Rippaverse is going to be there.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Ooh.
So I think he is the reason why I really want to go now, just because I did enter that contest that he had when he first came out with Isom. I entered a contest, one of my designs of his characters for a possible, cover deal or whatever. And so, yeah, that's definitely a reason to go.
Anywhere that those people are going to be is definitely worth it, because they are one of the hottest things in comics right now, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, I've been following them. And that's another reason why I've been on my brother so much. I said, look at this guy right here. He's self-funded. He got his own story. He got his own ideas. He got a fan base. He put his own ideas out, and it's happening. I said, that means anything is possible. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's the trick to crowdfunding, is to have a broad fan base.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's something I always stress him. But he's not really on the internet a lot. And I told him I understand that reason why a lot of people don't get on the internet. But I said, as an artist or a writer, it's a necessity, just because if you just sit in your home doing your work, nobody's seeing your stuff but yourself, and you don't have a way to test to see if people like your stuff or not, or get any type of response or whatever at all. So that's a good way to test is social media.
Do you have a dedicated website just for you and your art?
Yes, my website itself is www.kevjart.com. So that's kevjart.com.
Oh, cool.
Yes, send us both that, and we'll spread them around. Kevin is on Facebook as Kevin A. Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who could have figured?
There's a lot of Kevin Johnsons out there, so I got to put the A.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I've been, like I said, that's been my life's goal to be an artist. I started from when I was age 10 years old, and so that's the one thing that's been in, the forefront of my mind. A lot of people say, why did, you was in the military and this and this and that. How did you not, stray away from doing art? I said, well, you got to love what you're doing. Even when I deployed, some of my fellow army buddies knew that I drew or like to draw. So I even had the maintenance guys, they created me a small wooden desk from the excess wood they had left over, and I could draw in my tent, So, and I would draw portraits of some of their families. So that's another reason, Mike, that I did portraits, is because I was drawing portraits of soldiers as well and their families.
Man, I'd love to see some of those.
Hey, those things are old, and I can't.
Yeah.
Plus, I had, I gave them out to those guys, so I don't have any of that. I did it for them. So,
yeah, he can show you, Mike, but then he'd have to kill you.
Yeah, I love Frank Franzetta's work. I love flipping through the books that I have of his. Like I said, Alex Ross, bought some of those guys' things. Steve Rude, got his books. So yeah, definitely painted art is something that I'm attracted to. Boris Vallejo, I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh, of course.
His work, his wife, Julie Bell, she's actually a fine artist as well now in the Western art market too. Yeah. So I've been following a lot of their work as well.
I was wanting to ask you about when you were working through all your color stuff. How did you figure out how or make the choices for your palette, and if you have advice for up and coming artists who are struggling with issues like that?
I bought me a color wheel. It breaks down the colors that complement each other. So if I have an issue with trying to figure out a color, say if I wanted to see what color goes with red, I would just look on that color wheel. So directly from that red, I see green. So I know those colors complement each other. And so that's one way I figured out. Another way that I figured out, like I said, I studied under Thomas Blackshear. So one of his techniques is taking a piece of acetate and putting it over your painting. And so you can just test colors without ruining your painting on top of the acetate, and you can kind of see if that color is working for you. And the same thing with the design. There's certain parts of design that you don't think is working. You can take that acetate and put it over your drawing as an overlay, and you can just test those different designs on top of your drawing that you have already. So if it doesn't work, or if it does work, Also doing color roughs. Before you do your final painting, you could do small versions. I used to take a photo of my drawing and I mount that drawing onto some illustration board. And the colors I think I might want to use, I test those colors on the color rough first. And if they work, then I know where I can go from with that.
Just looking behind you, I like the way you use orange on there. And I feel like orange scares
Well, you know, the funny thing
Younger
about how I
artists.
thought, you know, the funny thing about the orange, you know how I got that combination of the orange and the blue? I think about the Denver
Oh,
Broncos. I know.
Oh,
You know,
boo!
so
No?
I don't watch a lot of the games either, but I was like, you know, especially being here in Colorado, if I use those colors,
Yeah,
that's something that's
yeah.
in people's minds. You don't think about it, but it's already in people's heads. So they see
Oh,
those
yeah.
colors, it already works. You know what I mean?
It kind of reminds me of Wyeth.
Yeah, NCY, the
Yeah.
clouds. Well, and Thomas Blackshear, once again, he's influenced by NCY doing clouds and stuff. And so I had a big issue drawing clouds, and I would mess them up, make them look like, he told me that my clouds look like cotton. He said,
Right.
you know,
Yep.
he said, so I started looking at NCY's work, and I said, okay, that's the direction I kind of need to go a little bit. So, and that's one thing I learned about, because Thomas comes from the illustration world. And so back in the day, he knows a lot of illustrators. So a lot of illustrators, believe it or not, if you go down history and you look at different techniques that a lot of those illustrators use, they copied each other. You know, you can tell this illustrator was influenced by this illustrator, and then this illustrator was influenced by that illustrator. So as over time, you see their work, you say, oh, okay, I see where he got that from.
Well,
Nice.
thank you, sir. This has been very informative.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you all having come on. I watched your shows a few times, and when you asked me to be on, that's why I said yes right away.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely like our artists. Mike and I don't like the writing competition so much.
No.
The art. Like,
We hardly ever have writers.
Hey,
no. The only thing that would make this better is if Mike would shave his head too.
You know, I've been thinking about that, JS. I've been thinking about it, but Anne would blow her stack.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
How do you know it's not shaved right now?
I see little parts peeking out. You look sideburns, which would be an interesting look.
Yeah, some of us can't help it. We have to do it. So
Yeah. Thank you very much for being on. Yeah, and we definitely look forward to seeing more from you in the very near future.
well, thank
And
you.
hopefully you and Mike can hook up at the 3D printing exhibit, whatever they call it.
That'd be
Maker.
great.
Right.
And Mike, go shave your head now.
An ancient evil, billions of years old, wages war on the universe. Entire star systems are vanishing without a trace, leaving devastation in their wake. Nexus, the intergalactic guardian of lost souls, must stop the unnameable terror and its expanding scourge of destruction. The totality of everything in existence will collapse upon itself if he fails. With the fate of the cosmos in the balance, Nexus must confront his most dangerous adversary yet. Can he save creation from total and certain destruction, or will darkness reign supreme? Find out in Nexus Scourge, the all-new epic sci-fi adventure from Eisner-winning co-creator Mike Baron, exploding with Kelsey Shannon's dynamic artwork. Available now at baroncomics.com.